Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Krysta Jones, a dynamic consultant and trusted advisor with over a decade of experience in emerging industries. Krysta has proven herself as a skilled brand builder and community cultivator, from directing global projects to creating a successful brands like the High Country Girls and highly connected app. Her expertise in sustainable business strategies and unique creativity has earned her a reputation as a highly sought-after advisor. She currently sits on the board of numerous companies, ranging from publicly traded to nonprofits, and uses her distinctive combination of skills to drive growth and success. Krysta specializes in optimizing businesses and maximizing profits through marketing and branding and creating sustainable companies. Her track includes significant achievements in the cannabis industry, where she was featured in multiple publications and recognized for her innovative approach to brand development. So welcome, Krista.
Hey, thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure, and I think I'm super motivated to understand your journey and your experience, and now that you're an advisor in so many industries. Um, what inspired you to specialize in emerging industries and brand building?
Really, it just happened naturally. It was really organically. They kind of unfolded as I grew up in the spaces that I was in. Early on in school, I used to throw a lot of parties. I was always, I guess, community building, and so really, that's what building a brand is about. Having a network and a community that is around that place you could plug into. So one thing led to another, and here we are today.
So I love that it was organic. Tell me a little bit the progression. Like, you started, where did you start? And then when did you realize that this was so valuable?
Shoot, like I said, really early on, I played sports. I was really active as a kid, just going out and grabbing everybody in my community and going and playing, just having fun. So that led to really throwing events and parties as I grew up a little bit, and that really led to me going out into like the nightlife and starting to engage in, as I was just getting older, now I can go to the club, I can go out concerts, shows, and go to different venues. When I went to those places, I had a big crowd with me always. So naturally, the promoters, they took interest in me. So that's really what put two and two together, specifically with the THC girls and my marketing capabilities. But just really, I've always just been hustling and really self-motivated and driven. So, having a job where I can really do good and have fun, it was always a space that I wanted to be in. So any job that I've had, I've worked in Journeys, I have the shoe store in the mall, and it has a atmosphere very similar to what I have today. So just building in the communities in the network, and then I really saw that I had an act for the clubs as they started offering me certain things. They asked me to come back, and I thought that was strange. So I really saw that, hey, I have a network and I have value there. As I got out of high school, the emerging cannabis industry started to happen in Denver. So this really was taking place all at the exact same time. I was really figuring out what my value was, why people wanted me to be certain places, and why they invited me certain places. And the industry started to emerge in the markets too. So naturally, I had that network of people. A lot of people knew who I was. They knew I had a good name in the spaces I was in. And so, that was something that was definitely a non-negotiable. You're inviting people to your home, you're telling them what you're doing. So cannabis really opened a lot of doors in a more personal level, with a lot more high-level people that were cultivating early on in the years of Colorado.
So it seems like you had a literal calling. It was
It does
people
seem
were
that way.
seeking you, and then you took this value as, okay, I need to continue going to this. Can you perhaps, like, you've been doing this for over a decade, so what was your, like, most rewarding moment, or can you share a rewarding moment that you thought, wow, this is really cool, and this is what I want to do?
Definitely. I just actually won an award last week in Las Vegas, the Blood, Sweat, and Tears Award. And, I've done a lot in this space. I really grew up in this space in a sense. Right out of high school, I got spit into the industry and just I've pivoted around the space, whether it's cultivation, retail, directing teams, running operations. I'd say the most rewarding is helping building with other people, helping themselves build their value and see their value. And that's really what I desire to do with my community, the highly connected. So that's why, as I was building my marketing company and my brand with the THC Girls, I launched the Highly Connected. That way, I can have a space where I can really provide help to my community and access to the things that I've been able to accomplish and do. So that's really what I feel is super rewarding. I think it's fun to help people. I think it's fun to make money, get opportunities, and do things together. So definitely doing them with the right people in the space now is a huge accomplishment for me.
For sure. And I'd really rescue or perhaps highlight the value of connection, the value of being in the right circle, being in the right people. And then you created this, is the high country girls like THC on purpose?
Yeah, yeah. See, when I started, when I started in the space, you couldn't just put. There's a lot of companies now. It's THC, cannabis. This, you couldn't really do that when I started my company. It was 2014. I already had gotten a few accounts closed because I smelled like weed. So you had to be you in our space. You have to be a lot more creative. You can't. And if you're too brolic and you're too much in the face, THC this, people close you down or they charge you more. So we're just a marketing company. We have a niche, so we're based in Colorado. It's the High Country is an acronym for Colorado. And so for the sake of my bank account not getting closed and all the other things that come along with just doing something that's new and risky, the High Country Girls is what I came up with.
Not only is that uh, interesting, but it also speaks to entrepreneurs that are doing things that are revolutionary, like when you start anything, any business, when it starts, it can be on the edge of whatever you think morally, legally is where it makes or breaks your entrepreneurs, like your startup. What advice could you give people that are starting into businesses like you started and now they're becoming a little bit more mainstream, accepted, legalized, even though there's still a lot of hurdles? What type of, other than not naming your company the obvious, what advice would you give them?
Man, there's so much. I think that a lot of people want to jump into cannabis for the sake of cannabis, and a lot of people don't realize that you don't necessarily need to be plant touching. And right now, at the moment, it's not really smart to be plant touching, but it's better to be the picks and the shovels. As the market continues to unfold and unravel and continue to plummet at this point in certain areas, in most areas, it's you have to be very strategic in any space, but especially extra regulated space. So right now, if you don't have the heart and passion and soul to take a nice beating in the cultivation and retail aspect of the space, really the picks and shovels are who I see are really winning and not taking as big of a hit. Another thing that I would suggest specifically for the cannabis industry and something that maybe I would take a look at today if I was to restart my company would be to just be a marketing company without emphasis on cannabis. I think there's pluses and bonuses to each way you do it, but it definitely comes with a lot of hurdles. Being so heavily cannabis oriented, it is not for the weak. You really have to have that advocacy and passion behind your brands to continue to do it.
Super interesting what you said, that if you had to start over, you would have perhaps gone a little bit more broad instead of being so nichey. Why would you say that? Why would you, like, it's a counterintuitive
Yeah.
to business books. Like everybody says, be the king of your niche better than being nobody in a broader space. But perhaps your experience into something extremely regulated is, you can hedge your bets perhaps, or be able to do a more broad, helps you, yes, be in that space, but also pay your bills with being in other spaces.
Correct. Yes. Diversify. As I continue to work with more of the investor side acquisitions and see what, family offices and investors are doing in different spaces, diversify diversifying in is everything. We can't put all our eggs in one basket is a saying that's told to us all the time. And with cannabis, it's very, very difficult right now to put all your eggs in that basket. There's no telling what's going to happen and how the market, it could all be gone tomorrow at the end of the day. So it's not an easy space, and the people that are I see winning are diversified. They either come from other industries and now they're tapping into our space. They have money from other avenues, and they have cushion to withstand the storm. And so companies that are going all in cannabis, it really, like I said, it's not for the weak. And if you have a brand that you're ready to really represent and be a part of the culture and the community, then all in is definitely an avenue. But for a lot of people that are coming in, they're, for instance, I just met somebody that's like, I just went to a huge conference last week in Vegas, and huge, one of the biggest of the year. And this lady, there was a lot of new people there that are like, I just quit my corporate job to come all into cannabis. I'm going all in. And I'm like, my heart is like, oh my god, I just want to like tell him, like, you just did the worst thing that you could ever do. Why would you stop what you're doing to be quote unquote cannabis? Is it cool? I don't know. I don't understand it, because as somebody, as I'm cannabis, right? I'm quote unquote cannabis. A lot of people know me in the space. That's not just who I am. I create businesses, I do marketing, and that's where I am today, is helping develop businesses. I help develop brands, and in order to survive in this space, I have to diversify. Or in order to be where I want to be. Let me say that. So seeing people do that is just it's something that I don't understand why people are doing it. I think having the broader spectrum right now, at least until the regulations are settled, is going to be a lot better. Even people that have companies just similar to me, you have to have umbrella companies and shell companies in order to have regular accounts. People don't quite understand the situation and how sticky it is.
Yeah, I actually think, and it's super interesting what you're saying, because cannabis pre-COVID was what AI is today, or maybe what is crypto today. It's pre-COVID, cannabis was the biggest industry and perhaps the fastest growing industry. And because of how it was being legalized in many states, and people were like, okay, this is the promised land is coming, is where the regulation was going to come. So there was floods of money going into cannabis space, and that's when you start to see a lot of tourists come into the space, people that can't don't have the wherewithal, which you were saying, which is, one is passion, the other one could be like, do you have enough of a bank account to weather the storm? And then the third is like, do you have diversified income streams? Do you have diversified ways to go into this? Uh, I do believe there's a big opportunity in cannabis, just because it's it was a it's a hemp is a plant that was regulated for no reason, right? It was like a sort of an arbitrary plant that was said, okay, it's going to compete with cotton, and that there's a big history behind that. And now that people are realizing about the abundance of hemp, from like fiber to oils to medicinal purposes and others, and mental health, the applications are huge, and then the opportunities are huge as well. But it's not a place for tourists. It's not a place for, let me dabble, let me think if I can make it, because like you said, you'll have a problem even opening your bank account. So, what lessons or what advice could you give to people, other than like diversifying, for people maybe not only the cannabis space, but maybe in a broader sense, that entrepreneurs can take lessons from what you lived through that they can apply to themselves?
I think really to stay in your lane and just specialize in what you're good at and apply that and partner up with people that are good at what they do. I think that's been the biggest lesson. Instead of trying to figure it all out myself, having the right strategic partners that I could lean on, count on, bounce referrals back and forth, and network. So there's a lot of value in that. And I think just knowing what you're good at and being very specific on what you deliver and your offer Whether that, there's a lot of ways to coexist. A lot of people that I work with do marketing as well. I focus on the organic and authentic part. They might do the pay to play, they have advertising, Google ads, stuff like that. So finding those right partnerships, I believe that's the one of the most important things for sure.
I love that answer because as an advisor that works with entrepreneurs on their investment matters, I notice everybody wants to get their hands in, the kitchen. And because entrepreneurs usually are very operational and very executive, and perhaps what you see as well, they want to go from like farm to table or from touching the plant to marketing it to do Google ads to then do Facebook ads and I liked your answer of staying in your lane, knowing your expertise. And how do you handle now that you understand this, like stay in your lane and you provide value and you're in the organic space? How do you handle like expectations from clients that want like quick results versus like long-term development or long-term results?
Shoot, just super clear. Being super clear and breaking down deliverables in the allocation of work. A lot of people don't understand social media and marketing, and they think it's very easy, very quick. There's a huge process, right, to get it done right. Especially when it's not you being the one to do it. Now I have to have you do the things that I need, right? So talking through process in a sense of just reality and expectations, and so that clients not only understand the reality of things but also why their budget exists and why that budget is needed and necessary, so that way we can deliver the way that we need to deliver.
Wonderful. So what would you say is like the most common misunderstanding about building successful brands now that you're in this organic space? What can you give us?
Shoot, I think a lot of people think that to build brands specifically, they think just throwing money around is, having these big fancy setups and big, presence at certain events and certain things that they do, but then no follow through. It almost works the other way. If you have follow through and you're giving, you build your community, you don't need those fancy gimmicks. So I think that that's one of the biggest thing for brands specifically, investing into their community, putting that energy and effort into the space that they're in, not necessarily just showing off, I believe, is one of the biggest ways that brands can at least build organically and authentically once they get that budget and they truly can go, show off, then of course, there's always strategies for those things.
That's so counterintuitive, right? Because traditional marketing is like put your brand on a billboard or buy TV space. But community building is completely opposite. Completely opposite. Let's say that someone wants to work with you. What do you suggest like them to be prepared with? Or how do you go about like a first time client that says, "Hey, I want to build a community." What's your process?
Really a quick audit of who they are and what they have passion for, because that's what your community is going to be based around. If you can't cater to that community organically and authentically, then you better have that huge budget we're talking about, right? So just really seeing who they are and how they want to go about it. Really, anyone could build a community as long as they're consistent, whether it's mindset, lifestyle, money. There's tons of different kind of communities, beauty. I think it's just consistency and showing up for them to provide value. I think a lot of people, Gary Vee does that right. A lot of people position themselves to provide value, and it just comes. So if you can have the passion to go ahead and be consistent, right, because that's what it takes. It's not easy. So seeing what someone wants to stand for and what they want to represent, from there seeing what their bandwidth and their flexibility and budget is, so that way we can have that reality talk. And then from there it's just taking action on the plans that we have, the strategy that's been successful for me over the years.
That resonates with me a lot because I believe there is. I don't want to call it inbound marketing because it's such a widely used term and it doesn't mean anything really to me. But it's what you're saying is more attracting over like hunting.
Yes, a hundred
You know,
percent.
it's like you build value so that the customer comes to you or your community. It's not even a customer. That's why you call it a community, and the community is people in your community are called members, and those members are like you build value together, and it's not really like you're hunting them and you need to have a kill list. It's a completely different approach. I also like what you said, that what you're willing to put out and the dedication is gonna it's gonna come back to you without really spending that huge budget, because the even if you I would argue that even if you have a big budget, Coca-Cola probably has the biggest budget, they are still not necessarily building the biggest communities.
Definitely not. We know that they're hiring the top notch influencers because they have that budget and people want to be like them, and they're utilizing their communities, right?
Exactly. And still they're not doing it.
No, yeah, they still don't do it. They let me know though.
Yeah. How has your approach to like brand building changed in the last decade? Like, what are you seeing now, and what do you think the next 10 years is going to look like?
Shoot. I think that really, a lot of more collaboration will start to take place. I think a lot of avenues are getting diluted. A lot of events that used to be exclusive, there's a lot more very similar events in the same place in different, whether it's entertainment in general or cannabis in general. I think that people will get exhausted and we'll see some consolidation of everybody's efforts and energies, and some bigger players start to shine. Some of the spaces are doing it right, and those people will get absorbed, and we'll see who stands in the storm.
So it's like we're in 10 years ago there was one conference. Today there's a conference a week, and you're saying that in the next 10 years we're going to see if those 10 conference a week, or sorry, a conference a week is going to be sustainable. Who's going to be the best one, right? So
Correct.
how do you choose, or where do you feel is like, okay, I'm going to tell my client to do one or the other?
For me, for example, just recently, actually, I chose to be in Las Vegas at the BizCon instead of here in Miami for Basel. And so that's a perfect example, right? One of the hugest conferences in cannabis is during one of the biggest events in cannabis in Florida, in South Florida, on the same exact days, on the same exact week. There's some consolidation or creation of consistency and partnerships start to take place, and those businesses will start to sponsor and leverage each other, I think, eventually. Right now, I don't think that they communicate, not those specifically, but just in general, there's a lot of stuff that happens simultaneously that you just, similar, and with conferences as well, you can't be everywhere at once. And I think as the industry starts to continue to, settle at a lower marketplace, that they will be forced to consolidate and work together, or they won't last. So I think that's what's happened with a lot of the brands. You see a lot of brands at first, and then slowly but surely there's only a few brands that actually last.
So it's sort of like pick your horse and stick with it. And at the same time, you just mentioned Basel and this conference in Vegas. It's also where you will shine. Like I spoke to somebody before Basel and I said, hey, I want to do an event. And he was like, why? You're competing
Right.
literally with with people with infinite capital.
Right.
Like everyone wants to be there. So your event will be outshined a million times. You'll be in the shadows. Nobody's going to notice what you're doing. Instead, either you collaborate with someone else, which is still not a good idea because you can't get that hype, or the other one is participate. Just be a participant in another, or go to somewhere where you will shine. Because if you don't, then those are dollars lost, those are dollars wasted. That's how you don't get to the next conference because you just burned out. You said, "Oh, I just lost the."
No, for sure. A lot of people specifically weren't at this year's MJ BizCon conference, and one of my friends said that they weren't gonna go, and I said that's why I'm specifically gonna go. Who's there and who can make it. Who's doing good enough to be there. I want to see. So I think that there's something to be said as that takes place.
Yeah. What do you feel is like your biggest personal challenge in building your business?
I think that specifically with the THC girls, I think just the market that the industry's in is just very difficult. It'd be one thing, I think, that if I jumped into it today and I was used to how the industry is, but being in the space where a unit used to go for $5,000-6,000, you used to get paid a premium. If I go to any job, any place, if I wanted to work, they can't even afford to pay me what they used to. So it's a difficult space to be in right now. That's why I've taken a pivot and I'm working with other people that just other networks and communities that have money and budget in their spaces.
So is this, yeah, and that's a fair, but not even fair. That's how entrepreneurs need to think, right? It's you hit a wall, you just
Pivot. You gotta. What am I gonna do?
pivot. And I like Gary V's title. You mentioned him before, which is like jab, jab,
Hook.
hook, or something
Yeah.
like this. It's like, you need to keep punching, and you also need to move, or else you're gonna get hit enough times that you're gonna quit. But if you keep on moving, then you'll keep having success. What about your investing side? Like, what we talked a lot about your entrepreneurial side and your career and how you're an entrepreneur, and I don't want to use the word influencer, but you definitely have a following. You were always surrounded by people. People trust your judgment. It's sort of like you're a trendsetter even.
Thank you.
What do you do in your investing life?
I've slowly been investing in real estate a little bit here and there. I was able to catch the inflation in Colorado, so I was able to buy in Colorado as the markets started to take off. If you bought before the industry really took off out there, you probably did very good in real estate. I did the same thing here in Florida. That's why I moved back here in 2020. Not a huge investor, but little here, little there, and acquiring small properties and rentals until I can do my bigger things, do my bigger moves. So I'm doing that for now. I do play a little investing in some stocks and stuff like that. In 2020, I signed up for an IUL. With the pandemic happening, you're like, oh my God, my life. One of my friends pitched me on life insurance. And funny enough, I signed up for a policy. And so I've just been, being in cannabis and being an entrepreneur, you don't really have an investment on an RO. What is it called? I don't even know. I don't even know.
401k.
I never had a job like that. But so the IUL positioned me for all those things and all those opportunities that I desired to have. Funny enough, one of my good friends that got me into the cannabis space a long time ago, he just launched an agency. And so, since I'm back and forth between here and Colorado, I am helping him grow his insurance agency. So now I'm actually doing life insurance and along with other insurances, along with all the other things that I do. But that same friend that signed me up in 2020, he just hit $100,000 last month. So seeing people within my network being able to do those types of moves and just where the space has been and just the unfortunate circumstances that I see all my network and my community in, has caused me to take that pivot. Because you're right, as a business, as an entrepreneur, I mean, I think it's only so crazy. How many times can I bust my head into the wall with just cannabis, until I am like, okay, this isn't where I need to be. So it's not that I don't want to be there, or that I'm not there anymore. It's just that I desire certain things, and this industry can't provide them right now.
What you're mentioning is called the barbell approach. You have, and actually, it's how the most savvy investors invest. They don't want to own the middle. You never want to be in the death valley. The barbell approach is having super risky things, which is being an entrepreneur. That's extremely risky. When you make it, it's 100x return. Sometimes we start businesses with nothing, so it's even infinite return. And then you put things into super safe, let's say the other barbell, the other side, which is like the predictable, the singles and doubles. You don't need to do 100x on that other side. But you did say that you caught two really cool or very important upswings with real estate. Was that because, how did you spot them and how did you execute?
Just really, living there, right? In Colorado, you're seeing the buildings go up. You're seeing construction consistently. You're starting to pay more for things. Everything started to get more expensive. It was just also timing. Timing, I was getting older and time for me to buy a home, and I really wanted to again position myself for the future. I'm not working regular jobs, right? And the only thing that I could think of that would position me for the future in any way, shape, or form is buying real estate. So just trying to position myself and look out for myself. I knew that that would be a move that I would want to do, and also just trying to take baby steps into that world, you know, without taking too big of a risk when I'm already taking a risk, like you said, on other avenues. So that's really what caught my eye. And then really after I did that in 2015 and I saw the reflection in the market and what it did, and especially being in the space, I started to notice as these other markets go online, the same thing happens. The trends are the same. The land, everything's cheap. You need to buy in certain places because these are going to be high profile locations that are going to be desired from our space, right? And if you have those places, those plots of land, wherever the retail or the cultivations might be, then when that city comes online, you're God. Like everyone needs you, right? So that really helped me put two and two together. Okay, well, I need to buy in Florida before it takes off. So I really worked hard to position myself to then do the same thing out here.
And you said something very important, which is one is being in the market. If you're not in the market, you cannot spot these trends. Like you cannot be a casual on the sidelines investor, because if you're on the sidelines, you miss the opportunity. You don't understand the trends. You cannot see it, how it replicates. And then the second one is I don't think that being early to a market is luck. Like once maybe is luck. But when you figured it out, you said, okay, this happened in this place. So history does teach us a lot. And I don't know if you've seen most financial firms on the bottom of every disclaimer, they say like past returns don't guarantee future results. And that's requirement. But what you're saying, and I truly believe it too, is that when you know something and you have this internal knowledge because you've been in the market, you can see it happen again. And that gives you a huge edge. So you'll be able to spot like, oh, the next market that's opening is, I don't know, X. And then you'll be like, okay, let me do it again because I can't guarantee the results, but at least I can spot the trends accordingly. And that's really valuable.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely suggest watching those trends if you want to get into real estate and have some money to put to it.
I would say watch the trends, but be in the market. If you
Yes.
cannot be in the market, you can't watch the trends. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything to you.
Yeah.
It's hard to say that because a lot of people will be like, yeah, but I need to start with it. I'm like, start somewhere. It doesn't take. That's like one of the most misconceptions about real estate is it takes a lot of money to do it. But really, if you want to do it, there's ways to participate in fractionally. There's ways to combine. There's companies like mine that help other people invest into like maybe institutional grade real estate and big projects. If you want to get it done, you can. So I definitely recommend that. Spot the trends, like you said, but definitely participate. That's the only way that you're really gonna learn.
Right, right. 100%.
What's in your future? Where do you want to be? What projects are you working on now that you're very excited about?
Right now, so like I was saying, I just jumped into the insurance space. I'm really excited to be in there. Ironically, my mom's like, it's so funny. I couldn't pay you to be in that space when you were young, and she thinks it's hilarious because I'm so excited. But what I really like about it is that there's definitive numbers and there's a system, right? Where cannabis has always been so new and we got to figure it out, and are we really doing it right? You know, there's already a blueprint for success in this space. You know, that along with my grind, I really feel excited about. I'm interested to access the regular world and have, you know, opportunities that aren't as restrictive. So because I've had such challenging times with the people and the brands that I've worked with, the lack of opportunities and resources. I mean, just that alone, just having a regular world to tap into is just a breath of fresh air. So I'm just really hitting the ground running. Everything that I have with my within the cannabis space, like I said, I just got an award. My marketing company, my team, I've built a really great team that you know, we don't even have to talk and everything flows. It's a really great system that we've built together. Community, we plug in, it's automatic at this point. Everybody's passing around relationships and putting their energy into each other. And of course, we're continuing to build that too. But yeah, I think that the insurance space is a big space that has a lot of opportunities. And I'm just interested in also learning. I've grown a lot of product and bust up in a lot of houses and warehouses, and that's been my lifestyle for so long that I'm interested to see. I got a little taste of it advising the family offices and working side by side with investors coming into the space, and I want more of that. So I'm really looking into what I can get my feet into.
It's wonderful. And I actually think from personal experience, I think that adversity promotes or fosters better entrepreneurs. So I'm very excited to see your future and what you're going to do and keep tabs on your journey. I want to thank you so much for your insights and your experiences that you shared with us today, from like the high country girls, which is the THC girls, to pivoting and taking like a different approach and being open about it. Is there a final thought or piece of advice that you'd like to share with our audience?
You know, just I think that I any final advice I would say just go after whatever you want to do. You know, don't waste time. If it doesn't work, do something else. You
Like
know,
it. Yeah. No procrastination. That's
no
that's the
process.
worst.
That's it.
If you
Lose that. That's the
lose
only
that
thing
and
you
you'll
want
be
to lose.
okay.
Yep.
Sounds great. It was a pleasure having you, Krista. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.